I've had my eyes on this watch for a while now, and after the failed attempt convincing myself I don't need to buy another watch, I couldn't fight the temptation any longer and had to get this chronograph from Sugess. This is my first experience with one of their watches, so I'm really excited about it. One of the things that really got my attention about the brand is they make their watches in-house, which is quite a rarity for watches on AliExpress. This is just a super cool, unique watch. It's available in a few dial colors, and surprisingly, the blue dial doesn't seem to be as popular as the other colors. This blue dial looks so good, and somehow all the different colors work well together. My watch collection has way too many black dials, so this is a nice change of pace. The dimensions are just about perfect for me. The diameter comes in at 39.2 millimeters. The lugs have a really elegant stretch to them, so the lug-to-lug distance is 50.5 millimeters. The sapphire crystal has a slight dome to it, and at the peak, I measure the thickness at 13.2. Initially, I wasn't too sure about the elongated lugs and if it would look a bit weird on the wrist, but it definitely doesn't. The dimensions really make for a super comfortable fit on my 7-inch wrist. Looking at the case, it has a really beautiful shine and really nice polish. I think the chrono pushers and crown help break up the case, because otherwise it might be a bit too flashy for my taste, but it looks great. The fully polished fixed bezel flows perfectly into the case, and that line where it meets on the sides also helps break up the case, adding a bit of dimension. The crown is signs with the logo, and the chronograph uses the classic pump-style pushers. I really like them a lot and think it gives off a bit of a sporty and vintage look. On the backside is a display case back, which definitely makes sense because this movement is so darn cool to look at. We'll get into the details in a bit, but wow, just look at this tiny little machine in action. The details on the case back is quite impressive, and I don't really pay much attention to a case back, but it's definitely got some nice details and interesting shape. If for anything, it's just a nice touch of detail. I do love the case and find it to be really well made. It's definitely not like anything on the watches I've seen in that $50 to $70 price range, or even a little bit higher, so it's nice to get more elevated finishing for that bump in price. The dial is definitely the big star and is what always caught my attention. Every time I'd scroll through AliExpress looking for new watches, I'd come across this one and I could hear it calling my name. Eric, buy me. There's a lot going on with the dial, with different functionality and colors, but somehow it all just really works well together. The first detail that is quite crazy at this price point is the dial is made of enamel, which really helps elevate the look. It gives it just the right amount of sheen and depth. Sometimes there's some frustrations with Ali watches and the choice of logo or even brand name, but I do enjoy the Sugess cursive text and the way it looks on the dial. There's a bit more text above the 6 that says mechanical chronograph. Around the outside perimeter is the internal tachymeter scale in black text, which I'm pretty confident I will never use, but nonetheless, it looks cool. The little splash of orange and red between the 2 and 4 helps tie in the overall color scheme without being too much. The hour markers are really nice. They're polished and applied. There are also 2 subdials in white with contrasting hands, one in yellow and the other in red. The subdial on the left displays the seconds, and the one on the right is used by the chronograph function to display the elapsed minutes. These hands are impossible not to notice. Yellow hour and minute hands with an orange lightning bolt for the chronograph seconds counter. I never expected to have a watch with a lightning bolt shaped hand, but here we are. To be honest though, you can't really see that it's shaped like that from a few feet away, but it's a fun little detail. I could confidently say I've never had a watch with 6 different colors, and it was well worth the wait. This watch is a total home run. The strap that comes with the watch is a perforated racing style black leather strap that fits the watch perfectly. Not just the design of the strap, but the quality. It's very solid and well made. You can feel the thickness of the leather, and it not just being lines with a thin sheet of leather. Wearing the watch is really a delight. The backside has this super soft tan leather that feels pleasant. It uses a simple buckle that's been polished to match the case and signs with the brand name. There's also fixed quick release spring bars, so if you do get the urge to swap it out to give the watch a different look, it will be easy to do so. I had no clue that it came with a second strap, so it was a nice surprise to see a mesh bracelet included. One of the compromises I sometimes see on slightly less expensive Ali watches are on the crystal. Although they are sapphire, they can sometimes be quite thin, but the sapphire crystal on this chronograph is a good one. There's a little bit of dome to it, which looks great and doesn't create any distortions at different angles, so that helps a lot with legibility. There's also a clear anti-reflective coating that makes a lot of sense to use because this dial needs to be seen clearly. Let all the colors and features pop. The crystal pretty much meets the rounded bezel flush, which helps keep the thickness down and just flows really well. This beautiful movement is the Seagull ST1901, and I'm really quite blown away looking at this thing. Seeing all the different small parts is wild. Part of my fascination with watches are automatics and mechanical movements, and looking at this engine is a lot of fun. It has 29 joules, a beat rate of 21,600, and 45 hours of power reserve. Typically, mechanical chronographs are quite expensive, so to get one under $100 is pretty crazy, and this isn't a cheap movement. Seagull is a legit watchmaker and one of the largest producers of movements in the world. This caliber has no rotor, so it's fully mechanical, hands winding, which I do sometimes forget to do every day, so the extended power reserve should come in handy. There's not much to speak of about the loom, but there is a splash of it on the hour and minute hands. So unless you're exploring caves, I can't really think of a reason to need a super bright looms chronograph. To be honest, there's really not much to critique about the watch. I had minor concerns around all the colors and longer lugs, but in person, neither is an issue, but really a benefit. It's one of those watches that is a great reminder that they should be fun and functional. I think I remember seeing one reviewer of this watch on YouTube mention this would be a great summer watch, but I'm wearing this thing all year round. I've been wearing the watch off and on for the past couple weeks, and so far it's handled my abuse. I don't baby my watches too much and don't see any random scratches or signs of test diving, so that's great to see. I can't speak of long-term timekeeping accuracy, but so far my quick tests is positive. In a lot of ways, I'm happy I waited a while to get this watch. I lusted over it for a while, and to have it not disappoint made the wait well worth it. There are a lot of great watches under $100 on AliExpress, and I think this one is definitely a contender for the best quality and most stylish option.